Hey guys, Foxdrop here with another patch breakdown video for you. This is patch 3.9, patch that came out yesterday, and if you want to take a look at these patch notes yourself, the link will be in the description for you to check that out. I'm not going to be reading everything out to you, but I'm going to try and go through all of the changes this time, not just the jungle changes, all of the changes. We'll see if you prefer that, though naturally the video will probably be a bit longer. Hopefully it's not too long. I'll try to keep it short, but every time I say that the video ends up being really long, so I'm sorry if that's the case. Anyway, first up, it's Brand. Basically they've reduced the mana cost of his W and his ultimate and increased the mana cost of his E very slightly. Basically this is obviously a buff to Brand. In my opinion, Brand has several issues. The first of them being that he has no mobility. He just has no mobility, and the range of his spells as well is very low, so he has to get quite close to people to really do a lot of damage to them. And in team fights, when you're a caster that has to move very close to people and then has no mobility themselves, that is a recipe for disaster. And finally, the other issue he has is that you can't really... His burst is unreliable because you don't know where your ulti is going to hit. You don't know who it's going to hit. It hits random people. If it bounces loads of times onto the tanks, you've wasted your ult basically. But if it bounces and hits loads of carries, then that's really good. So he's just very unreliable in that sense. But another issue he had were his mana costs, and this patch has addressed that. But I still don't think it's really changed what's wrong with Brand, so to speak. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think he's going to be too different, but still nice change. Corki. Now this is kind of different from Brand. Brand got a bit of help in the mana department, and Corki did as well. His Valkyrie's mana cost has been cut in half, and his ulti as well has been cut down quite significantly. Now this, I think, has made Corki a good champion again. I think we'll be seeing a lot more Corkis, and I don't like saying that because I really don't like playing versus Corki. I hate Corki. Corki just... very frustrating to play versus. For some reason I just hate playing versus him. Yeah, especially as a jungler, like his E that shreds your arm all the time, very frustrating. But regardless, Corki's main issues recently have been his mana cost. Basically other champions have been doing what Corki does, which is burst trades in lane. Corki's very good at burst trading because of his Q, and like, you know, especially if he's got his ulti with big ones piled up, he'll just like Q basic attacks and a few missiles on you. Very good burst in lane phase anyway, but other champions were like out bursting him. Think of Varus, for example. Varus didn't have to spend nearly as much mana. He would hit you 3 times and then proc his W with either his Q or his E, and that would be it. That would be his trade done. Corki, on the other hand, had to spend a lot more mana to do the same things that other champions were capable of doing. So I think this is a good change for Corki, and probably we'll be seeing a lot more of him. Now Draven, this is something which... Draven was OP before this patch, and he may still be OP, to be honest. The problem with Draven is that he did too much damage without any items because firstly his passive, his bleed, which procced every time you crit someone and every time you landed a spinning axe on them, and just the spinning axes in general were doing loads of damage, and he's got an attack speed steroid on his W. So he was doing a lot of damage without having any items. I know steroids work better when you do have items, but still it's a free bunch of stats. And so this change is basically, I don't like this change. They got rid of his passive, which is a good thing, but I don't really like the new passive. Well, there's not really much to say about it. I just don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because it's too snowball-y. It's a snowball passive, and I don't really think that snowball effects are really that good. I just dislike them in general. Basically, he gains a stat, like he builds up like potential money basically whenever he last hits a creep or catches a spinning axe, and then whenever he kills someone, half of his stacks are consumed and he gets a bunch of gold. So basically that means that whenever you're killing someone, you will like if you're snowballing basically and you're dominating someone, you're killing them all the time, then you're going to benefit a lot from this. If you're getting dominated, you lose stacks when you die. So if you're getting dominated, you're going to snowball in the opposite direction. So I don't really like that whole thing where you've got to do well, you've got to get kills, or this passive is useless kind of thing. I don't like that change. And it's like with Sword of the Occult or Medjay. If you want to go snowball, it's a risk-reward kind of thing. You want to snowball, you want to spend money on these snowball items, that's fine, you do that, but you're running that risk. You're taking an active decision and you're saying, alright, I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to play accordingly and hope that it works out for me, it's in my power, I've made this decision. Draven doesn't make the decision, he's forced into this passive, and I don't really like that. Like, Draven players don't have the choice. Their whole character is going to be more snowbally now. And I don't really like that too much. And especially considering it's Draven, like, if he doesn't do well in lane, then that's pretty much the best thing about him is his lane phase. So you don't do well in lane, you die a few times. Not only is that where he's at his strongest, so that you're screwing yourself over anyway, because you know when you're the strongest, you're at your strongest potential and you're not doing very well. But moreover, now with his passive, you're going to be suffering even more. So it's like, it's just, I don't know. I don't really like that change. Evelyn, just a bug fix. Hecarim, they've really hurt. They've increased his mana cost on his Q. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know why Riot thinks that they need to keep nerfing Hecarim. Hecarim is not overpowered. He wasn't. I didn't really see him too much even in the previous patch. He's obviously a good champion. He's viable for sure. And Hecarim and Nocturne are very, very similar. I always compare Hecarim and Nocturne because they're both solo queue carry champions. People who do very well in solo queue, who scale very well with items. But Hecarim is not played more than Nocturne, and Nocturne is, or I don't know, actually maybe you could argue they played a similar amount, but like they're not even thinking about touching Nocturne, and Hecarim wasn't exactly dominating solo queue. By nature, he dominates solo queue just because of the champion he is, but it's not like he was doing it like he was going overkill like Nunu was. And it's not like he was being played loads in competitive play either, so I don't really know what they're basing these nerfs on, unless they've got something else in mind for the future, but I don't really understand that, in my opinion. Janna, little buff, bug fix, sorry. Okay, Jayce. Now this is quite interesting because Jayce is, as far as the champions go, Jayce is quite broken. That's kind of just because it's similar with Elise and Nidalee, where people who have 2 forms and therefore have 6 abilities, or 7 if you want to count that, where they change like forms or stances. Jayce is one of those people, and the biggest problem with these things is that they're often harder, not hard, but harder to play champions because they have more potential, because you have more abilities, but they're harder to play. And also the 2 stances tend to be melee stance, range stance, which means oftentimes there's a lot of poke, and if you think about Jayce, a lot of poke there, Nidalee, a lot of poke there, and Elise, in lane phase at least, a lot of poke there too. And then in human form, not human form, sorry, in their melee form, Jayce with his hammer stance, really strong melee, especially burst trades. Elise, the same thing. Nidalee, the same thing. So they're good in melee and they're good in range with these double stances. And the problem arises when these 2 stances, they get like the melee stance. Jayce will be stronger than other champions who are in melee stance, or you know, other melee champions, sorry, I should say. And that's not right, because they've also then got their range things. It's the combination makes them very, very hard to play versus, and it makes them really hard to balance as well. And what they've done here, they've increased the cooldown of his acceleration gate so that he can't poke as much. And if he does want to poke, he's not going to be able to disengage either, because a huge thing about Jayce was his ability to just disengage. Like, he would poke the enemies down, and then whenever the enemies wanted to jump on you, you'd put down your acceleration gate and your whole team would run away and you'd be fine. That is disengage, and with the increased cooldown on your acceleration gate, you're not going to be able to do that as much anymore. So you have to make the active decision: do I want to poke loads, or do I want to save it to disengage? And obviously you can't poke as much anymore either with this increased cooldown. Now I don't think this is that. It's not enough to knock Jayce off his throne, in my opinion. But in addition to the tier nerfs, the changes in tier of the goddess, that might be enough. We will see, but that might be enough. But I'll talk about that a bit later on. So Cal, tiny change there. Now this cannon change is something I really, really like. This cannon change, in my opinion, is textbook balancing. This is what Riot should be doing all the time. It's not always as easy to do these things, but this is a textbook nerf, basically. Kennen was, in lane, he was a huge lane bully because he would just basic attack, that just harass you all the time. But he was also an all-in champion, so he'd will you down, and then with his lightning rush and his ultimate, he would jump on you and it just all-in you, because that's the nature of Kennen. That's what he's like. He was doing too much. He had too much sway in the form of being a bully because of his basic attack, so they nerfed his AD by over 4, which is it's not that much. Level 1, it means more the lower levels basically. And also what they've done with Mark of the Storm, they've reduced the duration of it so that whenever you've got Mark of the Storm on you, you're not zoned for as long. Because if Kennen keeps basic attacking you and then he gets an empowered W which then marks you, if he does that and then triggers his W on you, not only is that loads of extra damage, you run the risk of then, if he does lightning rush into you, you're stunned, which means that you're either, he's going to all in you and kill you, or he's just going to get some even more free damage off onto you. So it was a really hard thing to play versus, and this means that you're not going to be as zoned as much when he does have Mark of the Storm up on you. So I really like these changes. Hopefully it means now that he can't bully you as much anymore, whittle you down and then all in you. And I think that's a really nice change. Now LeBlanc got a really big overhaul, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to talk too much about this because I don't know too much about LeBlanc's mechanics in detail with her. I used to play her a lot actually in Season 2 alongside Pantheon. Whenever I used to drop loads of Elo, I used to just play Pantheon and LeBlanc mid and stomp people. But I don't really play LeBlanc that much anymore, so it wouldn't be fair of me to give you an analysis on something which I don't feel as though I'm in a good enough position to tell you guys what this means, because I suggest you go somewhere else to find out about these LeBlanc changes, because I'm not just gonna lie and pretend that I know everything just so that I look cool in front of you. I don't care. I don't mind admitting that I don't really, I'm not in the position to say what this means for LeBlanc, and I'm not, like I say, and there's no point me lying to you and even trying to make up that I know what I'm going to be talking about. But basically, just by looking at it, and I played a few games on this patch already, and what I've seen of her, she was picked in all the games I played actually. Her ultimate on its own is a lot more powerful. It doesn't rely on the other abilities as much. And in general, she seemed really strong and actually had a bit more damage than before. So, like I say, you'll have to go somewhere else though for a proper analysis. Now, Malzahar is small changes. Master Yi, oh yes, finally, the Master Yi change we've all been waiting for, guys. Fixed the bug where Ginzu's Rage Blade wasn't properly giving 2 stacks. Finally, yes. Ginzu's that item which everyone builds on every single character, especially Master Yi. It's the core item of Master Yi. Finally, it gives 2 stacks instead of 1. Finally, we can go back to playing Master Yi, guys. It's going to be Flavor of the Month, OP, God tier. Yeah, okay. I'm being facetious. Like that's English sarcasm, by the way, guys. This is just a small, doesn't mean anything changed at all. I'm not hating on Riot, guys. I was just kidding. Little Morg bug fix. Nasus has it's easier to see his stacks now, which is cool. Nautilus, oh here we go. No, his dredge line, his Q no longer travels through some walls. So, rest in peace. Rip in peace, Nautilus. None of this. This doesn't happen anymore. It's so sad. Go to this video, guys. I'll put the link in the description and comment "Rip in peace" in honor of this technique. No longer will we see this anymore. Such a shame. Anyway, Nunu. Okay, so Nunu, as a lot of you guys will know, was my most hated champion of patch 3.8. What they did, they buffed Nunu before patch 3.8, and then they buffed his whole playstyle in patch 3.8, and it took him over the edge, and he was way too strong. Actually, I feel quite strongly about this, that Nunu was the dumbest thing that happened to game balancing since the 4% crit mastery, which some of you guys might remember. Just horrid. I hate Nunu so much. And this change really 100% warranted, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's going to do anything, in my opinion. I don't think, I mean, it's a 7 hour direction, but I don't think it's doing too much to Nunu. His health per level has been reduced by about 10, slightly more than 10. So basically that means at level 10, which is quite, I mean, that's quite late on into the game, he only has 100 less health. And really, Nunu's power shines throughout the early stages of the game when he's stealing away your buffs all the time for like the first 15 minutes or so. So this health per level nerf doesn't really mean too much, but it's nice because Nunu is just naturally very, very tanky at the highest health per level out of every single champion in the game. So, that was nice. It's a nice change, but it doesn't really address the core issues of Nunu. But they then go on to address the issue of Nunu, which is his consume. They actually say here, we reduce the overall damage of consume to prevent it from outsmiting Smite at rank 1. Well, I'm pretty sure that Smite does 495 damage, and they've changed consume to 500 damage, and I think that's slightly Consume actually still does more damage than Smite at rank 1, but still, it's not, you know, it's pretty much the same. Smite is an instant ability anyway, and Consume has like a wind up time, so it's, you know, it is actually, it's better. I'd rather have a Smite do 495 than a Consume that does 500, but I mean, this doesn't really change anything, because at the end of the day, it wasn't Nunu's Consume that was screwing people over. Obviously, that was screwing people over, and it's a huge deal. It's really strong. But the biggest issue was the Consume Smite combo, and that combo is not really that weak. It's not being nerfed that much. It's nerfed, but it's not really that big a deal. I still think Nunu's going to be. It's still very, very strong. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure what they'd have to do to make him, to knock him back in line. That's my opinion. Orianna has quality of life change, bug fix, Pantheon, bug fix, Riven, bug fix. Shit. Okay, Shyvana. Now I'm sure a lot of you guys have been wondering what my thoughts are. Sorry, wondering what my thoughts are on Shyvana. Now, Shyvana was my most played champion in Season 2. I really liked Shyvana, but I haven't really touched her in Season 3 that much. I played her a handful of times, and it's quite clear that she's not as good as a lot of other champions. She's very similar to Skarner in the fact that she has fallen off since Season 2. And basically these changes, I will read these changes to you just because I want to analyse them. So now she gains armor and magic resist, like flat armor and magic resist, and they're doubled when she's in dragon form. This change itself isn't that, like, it doesn't really mean anything looking at it now. It doesn't really do too much. But, I mean, history would say that this is a very strong change. Like, with Nidalee had it in Cougar form, Elise had it in Spider form. They all gained flat bonus armor and magic resist. And both of those times, it was removed because they were too strong. So, you know, whereas it doesn't look like that much on paper, this is actually quite a nice change, a nice buff. But this is what I don't like, the flame breath thing. I don't think they've addressed the issues, really, in my opinion. They've reduced the armor pen. That's a big thing for me. I mean, in team, like, Shyvana really, she has, the biggest thing is she has no CC, right? So it's very hard for her to peel for people in team fights, because you just ignore that the tanks they don't give a shit about Shyvana. Like, Shyvana has no CC to help your AD carry or anything like that. But this armor pen did help your AD carry, because it meant that you tag someone, you tag the tank, the guy who's carry diving with your flame breath. And it gave the AD carry an easier time to take them down, because they had 15% armor shred on them. That's been taken away now. It now passes through all units instead of stopping the first one, which is nice, but at the same time, it doesn't really mean too much, in my opinion. It's nice, but it doesn't really mean too much. If this were, say this were Mundo, for example, and Mundo's cleaver then went through every target and slowed them all, this will be huge. But it's not like Shyvana relies on hitting her E to set up anything. I mean, it's really in situations where it's hard to hit your E, where it would be body blocked by someone, it doesn't mean too much. It's not like tagging someone with your E does something up. When you're dueling and fighting someone, it's a big deal. But when you are dueling and fighting them, you're really in a position where you're going to hit them regardless. Nothing is going to block that E when you're just standing there toe to toe with someone. I mean, you could just miss your flame breath for sure, but this change won't do, like, if you're gonna miss your flame breath, this doesn't do anything. This only helps people when something is blocking it. So I don't think it's a nice quality of life change, but I don't think it really does anything. The debuff duration has been increased, which is nice. The damage itself has been reduced when you actually just like fire it at someone, like quite handily later on actually. But here we go. So now on hit magic damage to debuff targets changed to 2% of their max health from 15% of what the flame breath's damage, and it has a 0.09 AP ratio. I don't know why it has that ratio, but 2% their max. This basically is a shift from basically, Shyvana now is very, very similar to Mundo. They made her into a control jungler more around. So basically, whenever you have percentage health damage on a champion, those people take away buffs extremely quickly. They take away Dragon extremely quickly. They take away Baron extremely quickly. And why? That's because buffs, Dragon and Baron all have loads and loads and loads and loads of health. So this helps to take away. It helps like counter jungle a lot more. All the big camps in the jungle have a lot of health on them. So you're tagging someone and doing 2% of their max health. That's quite a lot. And Mundo does the same with his cleavers as well. That's percentage health. It's current health, sorry, rather than max health. So it's slightly different, but it's still, anytime you're doing a percentage of someone's health, it really hurts in the jungle itself. What else? I actually had something written down. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So basically, as well, you're only really going to be benefiting. You don't get the armor pen anymore, but you do a 2% of their maximum health whenever you're punching them, and that relies on you to be punching them all the time, and you're not necessarily going to do that with your old flame breath with the armor shred. You didn't need to hit them. You tag them with the flame breath, and then because Shyvana, like I say, has no CC, she struggles to glue onto people. So once you tag them with that armor shred, you didn't then need to stay on them, because your team could then benefit from that armor shred. Your team doesn't benefit from your percentage health damage. That's only you. So I think it's actually a very nice change, given a percentage health damage. I like that, but I don't like the fact they've removed the armor shred. Like I say, it makes her into more of a control jungler, which I do like. But I think her late game team fights it hasn't really addressed her main issues, in my opinion. Now there's a bug with her W. Oh, okay, yeah. And also, I don't really know what these numbers mean for her Fury generation, but basically, they want it to be that she gets Dragon Form more in late game, and she doesn't have to rely on basic attacking things to get Dragon Form. But basically, that's a minor change. The big change were to the Flame Breath, in my opinion. And like I say, I don't really think it does too much. That's my opinion. Now, Shyvana really struggles, like I say, because of no CC. And whereas if they gave her CC, she would probably be too strong. I just don't think this does too much, in my opinion. I don't think it's really... We're not going to see Shyvana unless something else changes, you know. The 3.8 patch helps Shyvana's playstyle, but I don't know. Basically, the question has always been with her, why pick Shyvana when you can pick Mundo? And still, in my opinion, at the moment, there is no need to pick Shyvana when you can pick Mundo. That's my opinion. So, moving on. Bug fix. Ziggs. Okay, Ziggs is his W basically. If you're throwing it through the air, you're tossing it through the air, you can then press W again, and when it lands, it will instantly blow up, which is a nice quality of life change. But I don't really think it's a huge deal, really, in my opinion. It's a nice small change. Here we go. So the general champion notes. Basically, Tear of the Goddess now, like I was saying when I was talking about Jayce, no longer works when you're just shifting stances. So Jayce can't just shift stance all the time and then get a stack of Tear of the Goddess, because then he'll get Mura mana at like 20 minutes into the game, which was way too early, and it made him really, really strong. So you can't do it with Elise anymore as well. Though Elise didn't really get Tear of the Goddess too much. Can't do it with Nidalee's aspect of the Cougar, but this doesn't do anything to Nidalee, because Nidalee just stacks tier by using Pounce, not by aspect of Cougar, so that doesn't really mean anything. There's some like delay, whatever, that stuff doesn't really exhaust, bug fix kind of thing, small bug fix items. Okay, so this ward thing, it doesn't really mean too much. Basically, now their gold has been increased slightly, and the killer of the ward gains 50% of the ward's base gold value, and nearby allied champions with oracles or allied champions that place vision wards nearby get 50% too. So the gold is split between whoever reveals the ward and whoever gets the last hit. Not really sure why, but okay. Okay, now this is a fairly big change that I want to talk about Oracle's Elixir, and I think this is a big change to junglers specifically. It no longer expires on death, which is the incentive. The duration has been reduced, and the detection radius has been reduced as well. But it's basically the whole thing, which is no longer expires on death. But the only this just means that junglers are going to be getting this more. It really incentivizes junglers to buy an oracles during the lane phase, because there's not really that much risk to doing it, because when you die you don't lose the oracles. All you lose is like the time wasted while you're actually dead, like the duration is still ticking down while you're dead and when you're running back into the game. So basically it's going to mean that junglers are now going to be expected to buy more oracles, and I don't like that. Firstly, I think it's boring when junglers are just running around with oracles on their heads anyway, because it just removes all the vision, makes everyone play passive. It's not really a fun way to play the game. It's not a fun play style. But the worst thing about it is if you're now going to be expected by oracles, you're going to have less gold to spend on actual items, which means you're more of a support jungler, which is exactly what happened in Season 2, and it was the most boring jungle meta to ever grace the jungle itself. It was just so tedious. You're just expected to be a support, and already the champions who do really well in the jungle are those people who are supporty junglers, or people who get free stats, or who give free stats, or like who, for example, Draven being really strong, lots of CC, which is a supporty kind of mechanic. He would give armor and attack speed on it with his flag, which are free stats, and his Q was an armor shred as well. So you know that's kind of like an anti-free stat for the enemy, if that makes sense. But basically, junglers who do really well, junglers don't get access to a lot of gold, so the more stuff they get for free, the better they do. So already it leans more towards the support style, but it's not in the same sense as it was in Season 2, when there was Maokai, who was genuinely just when you would buy Moby Boots and an Oracle's Elixir, that was your your first buy items. Moby Boots, Oracle's Elixir. You don't even get a real item. You were that much of a support in the jungle. It was so tedious, and it was really annoying. And by the end of the game, this is your late game build, okay? Philosopher's Stone, Heart of Gold, Aegis. That was literally the item build you're expected to have at the end of the game. It was really boring, and this is what it's gonna do. It's gonna make junglers more of a support, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. Now there's slightly item changes. Item change, not really anything. More of Nautilus has been changed slightly as well. I think Death Streaks as well have been changed. I don't really want to talk to. Oh yeah, Howling Abyss, Orb of Winter. If you want to see a good detailed analysis on this item, the new Aram item, there is a article on it here on Cloth 5. I'll put the link in the description. But this is a nice, it goes into detail about the stats itself. You know, it's just an analysis of the item, so you can check it out for yourself. It actually looks pretty cool, to be honest. And I think that's pretty much it. It should be up. Yeah, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to talk about. This video's gone on for way long. I even said in the beginning I want to keep it short, and I've kept it going for like, yeah, that's about 30 minutes. Okay, cool. So I've talked for way too long. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this analysis video, guys. It's kind of a big patch, which is why I've talked so long. I'm sorry for babbling on about it. But you can check out all the links I mentioned, like the link to the patch itself, the link to the Nautilus video where you can go rip in peace, the link to this Orb of Winter analysis. They'll all be in the description. Thank you for watching this video, guys. You can check me out on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Twitch, on my Nook. You know, just if you want to catch up with me on my social media stuff, I would love to interact with you more a bit, guys. But thank you for watching this video. Enjoy your patch 3.9. And although I don't enjoy playing Corki, please don't play Corki, guys. Please don't do it. But thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video.